Sagiri awakens from a nightmare in which her father looks at her with disappointment. Genji approaches and informs her that the group has relocated to a nearby cave after she passed out from the poison of the human-faced butterflies. Determined to resume her duties of caring for Gabimaru, Sagiri gets back on her feet and ventures outside. There, she finds Gabimaru preparing meals for the group, Senta mending her torn clothes, and Yuzuria lounging on a hammock, supervising. Curious about why Gabimaru is taking the time to cook when time is of the essence, Gabimaru shares that he had reservations about moving on without the group being well fed. As Sagiri is now awake, Senta sees an opportunity to discuss their knowledge of the island while enjoying the food that Gabimaru has prepared for them. Yuzuria also agrees with the idea, but her enthusiasm is dampened when she sees that Gabimaru has served them kikatsugan made from the ingredients found on the island, rather than a more substantial meal. Gabimaru shares that while he was gathering the ingredients, he had scouted the island but has yet to find anything that resembles the fabled elixir of life. He notes that his scouting has been limited and that he has yet to explore the entire island. Yuzuria, suspicious of Gabimaru's reticence, asks if he knows something about the elixir of life that he's not sharing with the group. Unwilling to divulge information about the Iwagakure chief's immortality, Gabimaru lies, insisting that he knows nothing else about the elixir of life. He takes the opportunity to share his knowledge of the plant life on the island with the group, noting both familiar and unfamiliar species. He also mentions the blooming of the samurai plant, which he had discovered to be responsible for the mysterious disappearances on the island. Horrified by the idea that Gabimaru may have used the bloomed samurai plant in their food, Yuzuria flings a piece of kikatsugan at him in disgust. Gabimaru quickly corrects her, explaining that he didn't use the samurai plant in their meal. Senta suggests that they should disregard the depiction of the elixir of life given to them and instead focus on the statues on the island. He believes that by studying the statues, they may be able to determine who created them and whether the creators still live on the island. Sagiri shares her opinion that it's unlikely for anyone to live on the island due to the presence of dangerous monsters and insects. She also notes that the monsters they encountered had a strange, chimera-like appearance and lacked any discernible reproductive organs, indicating that they may not be natural creatures. Senta remarks that the religious items they wear are poorly made and designed, resembling malformed deities. While acknowledging the island's mysterious and strange nature, Gabimaru becomes pleased with the discovery of the strange monsters, believing that they provide crucial clues to the existence of the elixir of life, which could help him gain his pardon. Yuzuria jokes that they may already be dead and on their way to the afterlife, given the bizarre and dangerous creatures they've encountered. Senta agrees with Gabimaru's suggestion that they should continue studying the monsters to gain insight into the elixir of life's location. As dusk approaches, Genji approaches Sagiri and advises her to return to Edo while he takes over her duties in monitoring Gabimaru. He believes that as the heiress to the Yamada clan, Sagiri is better suited to fulfill her responsibilities and that her substitute sword indicates that she may not be capable of handling herself on the mission. Senta expresses doubt about the possibility of escape, pointing out that past samurai who ventured to the island did not return home. She questions whether using a boat to leave the island would be a feasible option. As Yamada examined Tenza and his assigned criminal, Nurugai, attempted to leave the island on a boat, they encountered dense fog. Despite the challenging conditions, Tenza remained determined, believing that a true warrior always moves forward. However, Nurugai criticized Tenza's approach, warning him that he would exhaust himself if he didn't pay attention to the currents. Despite Nurugai's disdain for samurai, Tenza saw his remarks as a valuable lesson from a member of the Sanka, passed down by Nurugai's grandfather. When Nurugai pointed out that he would still face execution even if they managed to leave the treacherous island, Tenza reassured him that he would do his best to plead Nurugai's case to the shogun and help him return home. Despite being a convicted criminal sent on the expedition, Tenza believed that Nurugai was innocent. As they sailed on, Tenza caught sight of a large ship in the distance, hoping that it was the shogunate vessel that would take them back to safety. As they drew closer, Tenza and Nurugai quickly realized that the large ship ahead was not the shogunate vessel they had hoped for, but rather a wrecked ship, one of many that had attempted to escape the island in the past. Suddenly, Tenza spotted two shadowy figures nearby and drew his sword in anticipation, but Nurugai urged him to put it away. He warned that shiny objects and hostility would draw the attention of dangerous animals, which proved to be true when a massive tentacle attacked their boat. Tenza valiantly fought off the creature, searching for another vessel to use as they continued their escape. Meanwhile, Nurugai's thoughts turned to a painful memory from his past. He remembered how, in a misguided attempt to protect his people, he had inadvertently led them to their deaths by guiding a group of samurai tasked with murdering his tribe. Nurugai's mind drifted back to the time he had first met Tenza in prison. It was then that Tenza had offered him a chance to join the Shinsenkyo expedition, convinced that Nurugai had been wrongly punished. However, the weight of Nurugai's guilt was heavy, and he struggled with conflicting thoughts. On the one hand, he wished to live on and continue the Sanka bloodline. On the other hand, he felt a deep need to atone for his past mistakes, including the deaths of his fellow villagers. As they searched for a new boat, Tenza stumbled upon Kisho's lifeless body, now covered in blooming flowers, and discovered the salmon in a trance. However, their moment of shock was quickly interrupted by the violent thrashing of tentacles that tore Kisho apart. The two found themselves surrounded, and Nurugai, consumed by fear and the memories of his own grandfather's death, lost all hope. Convinced that he deserved divine punishment for leading his people to their deaths, he begged Tenza to leave him behind. Tenza, however, refused to abandon his comrade and fought on, determined to find a way to safety. As they battled the monstrous tentacles, Tenza questioned Nurugai's desire to die, urging him to consider the value of his life and the possibility of redemption. Tenza's words resonated with Nurugai, and memories of his grandfather flooded his mind, bringing tears to his eyes. He finally expressed his desire to survive and make it back home. Moved by his companion's newfound determination, Tenza offered him one of his swords, and the two prepared to face the tentacles once again. With renewed vigor, Tenza and Nurugai fought off the monstrous tentacles, working together to find a way to safety. Finally, they spotted a usable boat and made a run for it. Upon returning to the island, Tenza and Nurugai quickly assessed their situation and realized that finding a safe current was their only chance of escape. As they washed the blood and grime from their bodies, Nurugai spoke up, correcting Tenza when he referred to her as a boy. To his surprise, he discovered that she was, in fact, a girl. Nurugai became confused by Tenza's flustered reaction to her naked body, requesting that he turn away as she dressed. However, she was charmed by his chivalry and bravery, and soon found herself entertaining the idea of marrying him once they made it off the island. Tenza proposed a plan to circle the island in search of the ideal current and suggested the need to gather allies for the return ship. As Genji departed, instructing Sagiri to leave after dawn, Senta expressed his agreement with Genji while also urging Sagiri to stay for Gabimaru's sake. He had observed a change in Gabimaru that led him to save her earlier, which could be related to the mission or something else entirely. Reflecting on Gabimaru's previous actions, Sagiri remembered how he had replenished her sword and insisted that she stay behind while he battled the monsters. As Gabimaru kept watch during the night, Sagiri approached him. Concerned about her well-being, Gabimaru asked if she was feeling any ill effects from the insect poison he had inflicted on her during their previous fight. He expressed gratitude for her help in steeling him to face the challenges ahead. While Sagiri saw Gabimaru as strong for acknowledging his weaknesses, he believed she was stronger than him in a way he couldn't comprehend. This left Sagiri stunned, prompting Gabimaru to share words of wisdom from his village that boosted her confidence. The following day, Sagiri approached Genji and informed him that she had decided not to leave the island or follow his advice to embrace her role as a daughter of the Yamada clan. She explained that she had chosen to walk the path of a samurai, despite the contempt of those around her, including her father. Sagiri demanded that Genji accept her decision, but he refused and drew his sword in anger. Sagiri swiftly disarmed him, using the lesson he taught her about obtaining weapons on the battlefield. Although Genji became infuriated with Sagiri for taking his sword, her shock turned to horror as she saw Rokuroda appear behind him. She tried to warn Genji, but he pushed her aside as Rokuroda attacked. Genji received a fatal wound, leaving Sagiri in shock and disbelief. And with that, we conclude this episode.